Hey friends, it's Adam Hebener, CEO of Modern Mortgage. Today is Wednesday, the 18th, 2020, and this is your Modern Minute. I'm coming to you with some information that's going to require a little bit extra attention paying. So do me a favor, kind of get ready to screw your head down a little bit tighter because I'm going to introduce you to some concepts you may not really be aware of, but concepts that are going to be vital to your understanding of not only what's happening in the market now, but where we're headed. And I want to continue to be a good source of information for you. On that topic, guys, I have to just say thank you so much for the likes, the subscribes, the sharing us. Please keep doing that. We're trying to get the message out. We're trying to help people understand what's really happening in this market. And we've got a saying in my business that is, men lie and women lie, but the numbers never lie. And so, we see so much spin depending on what political party you subscribe to or what conspiracy theory you find compelling. We're hearing all this kind of stuff. And as you can imagine, my inbox is inundated with that stuff. And so it's really nice to be able to just give you some information that's based in the numbers. So please continue to like, subscribe, share us, invite more people to know this. We got to get the word out so we can help people begin to react in a way that allows them to care for their own best interest. And that's what we're doing with this series. So listen up, ready to focus in a little bit. I want to talk to you about the Fed. Now, I know the Fed is one of these topics that people think they know a lot about, but very few of us really do. It's an extremely difficult system to understand the way the kind of plumbing of the United States monetary and fiscal system works. And so I'm not going to go into all of that. I've got a big webinar coming up on Friday. And in that webinar, we're going to go into a lot of things that are happening. We're going to talk about coronavirus. We're going to talk about the Fed intervention. And then most importantly, we're going to talk about what those things mean and how they're going to change your life going forward so that you can begin to anticipate and be proactive instead of reactive, which I think is how most of us feel right now. Okay, so listen up. Here's what happened with the Fed's announcement on Sunday. I finally get a chance to go a little deeper into what happened there. So the Fed said on Sunday evening, we are going to pump $700 billion into the U.S. financial system. And they did that in a way that actually is going to be beneficial for mortgages. Here's what you need to understand about how the Fed is operating in the mortgage world. Number one, starting in 2008, there was a special program that occurred as a result of that financial crisis. You might remember that program. It was called TARP, and it stood for the Troubled Asset Relief Program, TARP. And what TARP meant to do was to start purchasing mortgage-backed securities and other troubled bank assets with Fed funds. So the Fed actually began to act as a buyer, and they would buy things, put them on their own balance sheet, and then kind of protect them from falling any further in terms of asset price or default. Well, that program did not stop in 2008, and in fact, it expanded to a height of, in their largest expansion, which was just a few years back, the Fed was actually purchasing $85 billion a month in mortgage-backed securities. Now, don't let me lose you. Here's what that means. The Fed, every time a mortgage was made in the United States, it gets boxed up with a whole bunch of mortgages that fit its basic profile. So same credit scores, same loan to value ratios, same rough sizes, and they all fit into kind of different risk boxes. And each one of those risk boxes gets sold into the bond market as what's called a mortgage-backed security. Now, when somebody buys that mortgage-backed security, what they're doing is buying the right to receive a portion of the payment over time. And you can see why they would want to do that. It's a pretty good investment. If you buy people's mortgages, there's a very high likelihood that you're going to get paid back on your money. Now, some folks will default on average, but it's pretty statistically possible to calculate and project what that default ratio will be. And it tends to be a very solid return and even a better return than, say, a treasury bill. The interest rate's a little higher. So the Fed actually became one of those buyers. And in fact, at their height, in purchasing $85 billion a month, they were the largest buyer of mortgage-backed securities in the world. And in fact, if you added up the whole rest of the mortgage-backed securities market, they were the same size or often less than the buyer that the Fed is. Now, here's why you need to know that. Because when the Fed pledged on Sunday that they would put $200 billion into the system, they were actually pledging $200 billion on top of all of the mortgages they already own. So they own millions and millions of mortgages. And what they've said they'll do is each time one of the mortgages they already own gets paid off, say through refinancing or selling, or just someone finally pays off their mortgage, anytime those activities occur, it would normally come off the Fed's books, and they would no longer be receiving the payment, and they would no longer show the loan as an asset. Now, to you, it's a liability, but to them, it's an asset. So their balance sheet has been shrinking over the last couple of years because they've not been repurchasing more mortgages. So here's what that means. What they pledge to do is they're going to keep everything on their books. So every time one of their loans gets paid off, they're going to replace it with another loan of the exact same size. So you pay off a $400,000 house, you sell that house, you owed $400,000. Normally, they would just not have to give the $400,000 anymore. Now they're going to keep that in the market. So that's going to keep pumping into the American mortgage-backed securities market. On top of that, they pledged another $200 billion. Now, that is very valuable because what it does is it makes the Fed act like a buyer in the market. It creates demand, okay? So when demand is high, interest rates can be low. And the reason interest rates can be low, think of interest rates like the attitude of a girl at a dance party. If she has a whole lot of people interested in dancing with her, she doesn't have to be very nice. She's going to get a partner no matter what, and the interest rate can kind of come down. On the other hand, if she's not having much chance, not attracting many people to dance with her, she's going to have to be nicer in order to get people to dance with her. Now, I was a guy in high school who couldn't get anybody to dance with me no matter what I did, whether a good attitude or bad attitude. So this is just theory. Take no offense. But as you think that process through, understand that the more demand there is for mortgages, the lower those interest rates can be, and that's good for consumers. Now, the fact that the Fed is supporting demand in the way they are is very valuable to the mortgage-backed securities market and therefore to consumers. Because what it does is it takes their demand at the Fed, pushes it through the mortgage-backed securities market, and it becomes demand in your pocket. And here's how it becomes demand. It makes your house less expensive. And making a house less expensive does a couple of things. It makes you feel a little bit more secure, makes your savings go a little bit further, and then very importantly, it might put a little extra cash in your pocket so you can go out and spend that. Now, the Fed did another really, really important thing in their $200 billion pledge, but I'm going to have to save that for tomorrow because it's going to take me just a couple of minutes to explain what it is. So I'll have that ready for you. As we finish this off, though, I just want to continue to encourage you. Be hopeful. When the world feels extremely short term, the best thing you can do, the wisest thing you can do, is take long term. When the world starts running out of cash and spending and going crazy to spend things, your attitude has to be different. You have to be thinking a little bit more about saving. Okay, so it's time to refinance. This message is going to be the same every day. It's time for you to pull a little cash out, pull some of your equity. Not a lot of it. If you can get to 80, 85%, even 90%, that's okay. Put that money in your pocket. And statistically, what we find is if you've got 10% or more and you've got some savings in your pocket, you tend to be almost bulletproof. Very few of those people will lose their homes, even in the worst of times. And we can see that back through the tapes. So get those reserves where they need to be. If you love a home that you're looking at and you've got the reserves, buy it. If you need to shrink your down payment down, shrink it down. That's okay to do. Now, guys, I've got a lot more good information coming your way, some things that you need to know to understand what's happening in the market today so that you can begin to position yourself for success in the coming days. And it's going to be very important that you watch that. So continue to watch for our information. Like, subscribe, share us, get us out in the world. Only you can do it. And we're going to keep serving folks the best we can. Thank you. And God bless you. I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.